Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
What's going on, guys? Unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Obi Wan Kenobi show and honestly what it could have been. So without further ado, we're going to hop right on into it. Of course, please don't get me wrong. The show was absolutely amazing. I loved pretty much everything just about the overall show. I'll be coming out with a separate video here on the channel about my final thoughts and opinions. I'm really honestly still soaking it all up and taking it all in before I come up with my final thoughts and opinions. So stay subscribed for that for when that comes out. Today's video, we're going to be taking a read from the direct's article. As their article reads, Obi Wan Kenobi Movie Trilogy was originally planned before the Disney Plus series, and this here is exclusively coming from them. So full link down, description down below for that full article. Let's go ahead and jump right on into this. Obi Wan Kenobi has wrapped up on Disney Plus, bringing back Ian McGregor as the character of Obi Wan Kenobi, telling the story of how he was forced off of Tatooine between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and pitting him against his former Padawan learner Darth Vader. The series as a whole has proved to be extremely popular amongst its fans, breaking viewership records on the streaming platform of Disney Plus. However, despite its success, a portion of the Star Wars fanbase has expressed that this show would have been a better story as a standalone film or as originally that was intended to be Lucasfilm's plan. Stefan Daldry and Hossein Amini were brought on to direct and write the film, respectively, before the project shifted into an episodic type of format with the launch of Disney Plus in 2019. From there, Joby Harold was subsequently brought on to take over as a head writer, paving the way of the version director Deborah Chow eventually brought on to Disney Plus. Now that the project's very first writer has opened up about how this show was initially planned here and how his plan for Obi-Wan Kenobi's story didn't just comprise of one theatrical feature, but actually three into an actual trilogy. In an exclusive interview with the direct's Nathan Johnson, Obi-Wan Kenobi writer Stuart Beatty talked about his role in making the Ian McGregor starring project and how it was originally imagined as a, quote, full trilogy. Beatty was credited as a writer for episodes 1, 2, and 3, and the season finale of the overall series. Beatty also revealed that he only wrote the screenplay for the original feature film that the show was based on and never collaborated with the series writers. Also, while mentioning Solo's box office performance as the reason for the Kenobi movie never actually getting made and taking off into a full-blown trilogy. In full quotes coming from the former writer of what was supposed to be the Obi Wan Kenobi movie / trilogy here, he says, "Right, so not at all, none. I wrote the film that they based the show on, so yeah. I spent like a year and a half working on it, and then when the decision was made not to make any more spin-off films later after Solo came off, I left the project and went on to do other things. Joby Harold came on and took my scripts and turned it from 2 hours into 6, so I did not work with them at all. I just got credit for the episodes because it was all my stuff." Ending the quote right there from the original writer here of what was supposed to be the Obi Wan Kenobi movie. The article goes on to say Beatty also revealed that his original story pitch to Lucasfilm in 2016 involved convincing them of all quotes all 3 stories for Obi Wan Kenobi, the first of which ended up becoming the series' first season and featured the death of Reva even, and the second that looked ahead to the Jedi Master's lead up into A New Hope. So essentially, season 1 of the Obi Wan Kenobi show was pretty much supposed to be like the first movie, except Joby Harold took it and spanned it out into 6 hours. While it's not necessarily adding in a lot of filler or anything like that, but adding in kind of side stories and that type of stuff. And it's also interesting to note that this here was an original type of idea all the way back from 2016 that featured Reva from the very beginning. In another quote of what the original writer here of the what was supposed to be Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, in full quotes, he goes on to say, "So when I pitched my Obi-Wan story to Lucasfilm, I said, and there's actually 3 stories here, because there's 3 different evolutions that the character has to make in order to go from Obi-Wan to Ben. And the first one was the first movie, which was the show, which was Surrender to the Will of the Force. Transport your will, surrender your will, and then leave the kid alone." So then the second movie was thinking about where Kenobi ends up, and one of the most powerful and probably the most powerful moment in all of Obi-Wan's story is at the moment of where he sacrifices himself in A New Hope. A great moment, you know. It kind of even makes you cry, but if you stop and think about it, it's a pretty sudden thing. So just to be going and fighting a guy to seeing Luke and go, I'ma die, and you know, that to me, that required forethought, something before that, something that required pre-acceptance that this is going to happen, ending the full quote right there. So to clear this up real quick, surrender to the will of the Force, transport your will, surrender your will, and then leave the kid alone is kind of like the story arcs that he was kind of going there for with his original movie. From there, the writer continued to elaborate on what he envisaged for a second story of Obi Wan Kenobi, describing how it would deal with Ian McGregor's character coming to, quotes, in terms with his own mortality, and in quotes there, to devour into Obi Wan's sacrifice that we see in the climatic Death Star battle against Darth Vader in A New Hope. In another quote from the former writer of the original, what was supposed to be Obi Wan Kenobi movie, he says, "So again, it's one of those universal things we all struggle with, to come to terms with our own mortality. So that was the second step of the evolution for me, that Obi-Wan now has to come to terms with his own mortality, somehow in a prophecy or Qui-Gon telling him." In quotes, he says, "There's going to come a moment where you're going to have to sacrifice yourself for the good." And then Obi-Wan is like, "What? No, I'm here to help. I can't. No." I get him to that point of where Obi-Wan has to accept the idea that he's going to die, and that he's going to die willingly at a crucial moment. And that furthermore, you will know when that moment presents itself, so that when that moment comes up in A New Hope, you understand. He's recognizing he's been on this journey already, and he's waiting for the moment that now he's able to make it so easily to do this sacrifice and just die. And that, for me, is really the second evolution, the second film, and the second story for Obi Wan Kenobi. So for me, that the previous writer goes on to say, if I have anything to do with him in the second season of Obi Wan Kenobi, that's the character's evolution that I would take him on. That to me is a really interesting and, like I said, universal type of thing. Ending quote right there from what was supposed to be the original Obi Wan Kenobi writer here for what was supposed to be originally planned as a movie and also a trilogy. So real quick, let's kind of rewind this all back here. It's very interesting how he thinks about this from the standpoint of like leading him up to the point of A New Hope, and that really is kind of what it is. That's really the way that this overall character is written and intended, because the way that Obi Wan Kenobi is first introduced in 1977 in A New Hope, and we even see his death the first time that we do see him like in a first piece of media or content coming from Star Wars, like a movie or a show. But I honestly have to agree so much, and also kind of noting the way that he kind of points out maybe a second type of season potentially happening here. He would definitely be on board for helping out and wanting to work alongside with some of the other creators and writers and directors and producers here for a potential Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2. So yeah, there's even more evidence or a potential meeting or looking at a potential Season 2 for Obi-Wan Kenobi. From there, the director's article goes on to say, when asked if the 3 stories that he had planned meant that the plan was to make 3 movies, B80 confirmed that he was originally going to have a full trilogy. And from there, the writer also revealed that both Lucasfilm and Ian McGregor were on board with this idea and that they would like it. In quotes, he says, "Oh, absolutely, yeah, for sure, yeah, Ian was on board, everyone, and we were all like, yeah, ready to go, and we were so excited about it too. It's a great story to tell, right? It's such a great and fitting character, and Ian is just so fantastic at it, and he's a perfect age and everything as well," ending the quote right there. The fact that they even got so close and so far as of to even have Ian McGregor involved at this point, it just means so much more, I think, especially for what we really could have actually had here for an Obi-Wan Kenobi story. I think that there just would have been a lot more hype, for sure. I think I speak for a lot of you Star Wars fans and the overall community out there when I say, yeah, there would definitely be a whole lot more hype out there if these were actually movies instead, and rather than just a show, something that would be done and over within a quick 6 weeks, rather than if it was going to be a movie trilogy, that there's something that would probably last anywhere from a good, I'd say like a solid 5 to like 7 years. Of course, having different gaps between, you know, the different movies coming out, so they're not all coming out back to back to back each and every single year. I think that there'd be like a year between each and every one here. And of course, the hype would go up a whole lot more when we're getting closer and closer to another movie coming out here for Obi Wan Kenobi. Now, the article goes on to say that B80 was, in quotes, devastated, and I am too, honestly, when he found out that the project was no longer going ahead as a movie. In quotes, he says, "It was just dying to be done, you know? Unfortunately, it was Solo that changed the direction of the system. I like Solo personally, but it hadn't made a lot of money. It was crazy to some ways to think about how it was directed by one of the best filmmakers working today, Ron Howard, but just because it didn't hit a certain number that Disney really liked, they just had to rethink, and again, way above my pay grade." But it certainly crushed us, everyone that worked on it. Devastated, absolutely devastated. But that's the business, you know, highs and lows. I'm glad to have made it. I'm glad that the show got made. I'm proud of my story that got told, even though it was on Disney Plus. I'm glad my characters are all through and in it, and I'm glad I got credit for it. I wish they had been able to make my movies instead, ending the quote there. And yes, as I had mentioned, yeah, honestly, reading this article, kind of like blindly reacting it, and this is like my first going, you know, through and reading this article with you guys as I'm recording this video, like I do pretty much for all my, you know, articles and news updates, so I can kind of get that blind reaction with you guys as I'm kind of recording this stuff, which is very fun. Honestly, as I just mentioned though, I would honestly like a movies trilogy a whole lot more. And also the whole idea that they subsequently based the yes or no completely off of how Solo was going to perform, it just breaks my heart. Solo was not a bad movie. I think I speak for pretty much all of you Star Wars fans out there. Or, you know, I guess just overall sequel haters were upset at the fact of The Last Jedi. And for that reason, people went ahead and actually boycotted Solo, Star Wars story. And also the fact that, you know, Disney went ahead and based their whole decisions off of that is even just worse, honestly, because it didn't hit a certain number. Even if people liked Solo and kept on going to see it, or a lot of people went to go see it, and it still didn't hit that number, I think, I don't know, I guess Disney still probably would have just not made it. Now, aside from all that, the article goes on to say, B80 was also asked if he had actually been able to submit a treatment for a second or third move to Lucasfilm, but he said that he hadn't, due to how busy he had been working on the first one. In quotes from there, he says, "No, just the first, because they hadn't hired me to do any others yet, because I was already busy working on the first one." Ending the quote right there. It just seems like this guy just poured his blood, sweat, and tears, his soul into this project for it to like kind of just get scrapped and thrown away. Like, yeah, sure, they used his overall basic you know, idea, and they used it on Disney Plus and everything, but the whole I guess idea and fact that they just like kind of like not steal it from him, because they still credit him, everything like that. But I guess I think you guys know what I mean. Definitely, it just really definitely is not the best overall feeling, I'm pretty sure here. Now, the article wraps up and says all episodes of Obi Wan Kenobi are now available to stream on Disney Plus, which is very exciting, but just imagine if this was a movie or a movie trilogy instead. It would have been so amazing and so hyped to see this type of stuff on the big screen, and that is something that I'm kind of fearful of Disney and just overall Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars kind of doing, is where they're going to have like these cool big moments happening in TV shows off of Disney Plus, rather than giving it that big screen, I guess, moment, that big screen deservement treatment that it really does deserve with some of these projects. And what I mean by that is kind of like with The Mandalorian. Yeah, that started out as a series over on Disney Plus and everything like that to get it going, but bringing in Luke Skywalker and all those types of things. Imagine if this was maybe written in like a movie format, and then they randomly bring in Luke Skywalker all of a sudden, like at the end of the movie or something. Just imagine how crazy that would have been, and the overall hype for that would have been actually insane. Same thing goes for when Vader and Obi-Wan first encountered each other and had their final duel at the end of the season with Obi Wan Kenobi. It just would have been so much more climatic, I feel like, and overall a more enjoyable experience as a whole as well. Now, of course, I want all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I'm actually dying to know what you guys think here about an original Obi Wan Kenobi movie, how far they actually got with this stuff and everything like that. Would you guys have preferred to see Obi Wan Kenobi as a movie instead of as a Disney Plus series? And do you want an Obi Wan Kenobi season 2? It seems like they do have like an actual understanding and a basic actual understanding for what a season 2 could actually really potentially be here, especially if they were to going to bring on Stuart to B80, the original writer here for what was supposed to be the Obi Wan Kenobi movie, later to be transformed rather into an actual trilogy, something so much bigger and climatic. I think would have been so much more cooler. That isn't to be hating or anything on what we did get as the Obi Wan Kenobi show over on Disney Plus. Let me know of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I'd absolutely love to hear what you guys all think. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy it, as it really does help with the channel. And check out Instagram official Star Wars and more Star Wars related content, guys. Thanks so much for watching today's video. As always, may the Force be with you. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.